Okay. So, this was probably never going to work, right? Beatrix Potter's animal stories are small, mostly self-contained, fairly innocuous stories, tinged with an extra bit of darker fatalism one expects from British children's entertainment. They're kind of exactly the opposite of what you want to build one of these big, stupid, loud noises and shiny things, because you're stuck with the kids and they'll basically watch anything mass-market family blockbuster movies out of. I mean, if that format doesn't even work with stuff like the Smurfs or Alvin and the Chipmunks, that were already built to be these largely commercial, merchandise-driving things, it's not going to work for Peter Rabbit. But maybe I'm being the spoilsport here. After all, where is it written that you can't squeeze a 90-minute fast-moving stunts and gags slapstick comedy laden down with pop culture references that'll be dated next week and trendy song cues that were dated 6 years ago out of a storybook about several rabbits who would like to get vegetables out of an English country garden and a farmer who would rather they didn't? Well, me. I said that. I'm saying that. And it is the entire goddamn premise, by the way, so what did they decide to fill the remaining 88 minutes with? A lot, unfortunately. But okay, so in this version, which is somewhat pointlessly set in the present, but we'll get to that bullshit, Peter, Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Benjamin Bunny are orphans getting on by covert missions to steal food from Farmer McGregor's garden following the death of both of Peter's parents, a situation that changes when the farmer suffers a fatal heart attack in the midst of a confrontation, and Peter attempts to pass himself off as a kind of giant killer who turns the newly liberated farmstead over to the local animals. But it turns out that the farm has been inherited by McGregor's nephew, played by Domhnall Gleeson, who wants to fix it up and sell it, touching off a conflict that seems to have been envisioned by asking, hey, you know that other Rabbit franchise where he just kind of with some clueless idiot for a couple minutes and it's hilarious? How long do we have to stretch that out until it sucks? Now look, the Bugs and Elmer cartoons are great, Peter Rabbit is great, but they aren't like interchangeable just because they're both f***ing rabbits. That's like doing Winnie the Pooh and making it a martial arts movie because Kung Fu Panda worked. Anyway, they decided that just having a CGI rabbit beat up General Hugs wasn't enough for a whole movie, so instead the whole conflict becomes about putting Peter and his nemesis into a love triangle. Fucking really. See, Rose Byrne is playing this animal-loving, artist, free spirit lady who lives next door and is protective of Peter and the other animals and thinks they should be allowed to come and go from the gardens as they please since the land really belonged to them in the first place, and keeps trying to talk McGregor out of building up and electrifying his border walls, especially since he doesn't really care about the garden and the farm and just wants to sell it off. And wow, that's heavy-handed, huh? Yeah, I know leaning hard into the metaphor about immigration thing worked for the Paddington movies, but one, Paddington was always kind of about that, and two, the people making those movies were, what's the word I'm looking for? Talented. Also, weirdly, apart from the accents and the setting, the whole thing feels very, like, un-British, and if anything, way too American, which is odd aesthetically of a choice for Peter Rabbit. Anyway, Gleeson and Byrne's characters start to fall for each other, which could maybe work out for the animal since she might change his mind about stuff, but Peter gets jealous because he's nursing a quasi-Oedipal crush on her. That's not even me editorializing, by the way. He literally spells out that he's fixated on her because he misses his mother. Somebody got fucking paid to write this, and escalates the conflict so they can both ultimately learn a lesson, but not before the plot evolves to involve a walking tour of London, a training montage set to a reworded cover of Remember the Name sung by pigeons, a dynamite bombing plot, and questions over who was holding a detonator and why. Really. And you know, also Rose Byrne's character is also named Bee, and we see her like painting the illustrations from the original Peter Rabbit book, so it feels like maybe she was meant to be Beatrix Potter, but she's not because it takes place now, so it feels like that might have been part of an earlier screenplay and they just forgot to take it out. And also, why is James Corden? I don't just mean why is he here or why is he playing Peter, I mean why is James Corden? Just why? Why? Who asked for this? If there's a bright spot, it's that it turns out Domhnall Gleeson is actually really good at physical comedy like this. It's wasted because his character is ill-defined and the rest of the movie is terrible, but he sells the hell out of getting his ass constantly kicked by animals, and it goes well with his seemingly innate sniveling punchability. You know, it took a while to figure out what this guy's thing was as a screen entity outside of, do you want to be the one to tell Brendan Gleeson his kid doesn't get to be in the movies? But he's an excellent comedy punching bag, and I'd much rather have him just be sort of remaking The Money Pit in the English countryside instead of trying to make a Peter Rabbit movie. Everything else is basically wasted, the animation isn't particularly good, everyone involved deserved much better than this. 1 star, please find something else to do this weekend.